As the sticky heat of June settled over the Jersey Shore like a well-worn blanket, I had my escape all mapped out. Bunk down at my college roommate Mia's cramped apartment in Asbury Park, pick up shifts flipping burgers at that kitschy boardwalk joint, and stash every tip toward renting a tiny walk-up overlooking the Atlantic. But then came the blowout with Mom, her voice slicing through the phone line like a summer squall, dredging up old grief about Dad and my wasted potential after I bailed on that dead-end marketing gig in Philly. Words flew like seagull scraps, and before I knew it, I was heaving my duffel into the back of my beat-up Honda Civic, tires kicking up gravel as I peeled out of our suburban cul-de-sac in Cherry Hill. 3 hours north along the winding coastal highway, past salt marshes and faded motels, I ended up at Uncle Leo's place in a sleepy hamlet called Barnegat Light. Leo wasn't blood, never had been, but he'd been Dad's ride or die since their wild college days at Rutgers. The kind of guy who showed up with a cooler of craft IPAs for my high school graduation barbecue and fixed the leaky roof on our split level without a peep. At 38, fresh off a messy divorce from his high school sweetheart that left him rattling around that weathered cedar cabin alone, he was the closest thing to a rock I had left. Me, Avery Hayes, 22 and feeling every bit the hot mess, with my wild chestnut curls tied back in a ponytail and a backpack full of half-read paperbacks and unmet dreams. His place was my Hail Mary. He was out front when I crunched up the oyster shell driveway, fiddling with the hitch on his old Ford F-150, toolbox splayed open like a surgeon's kit. Faded Levi's hugged his frame, topped with a threadbare Phillies tee that had seen better decades, and his dark hair was tousled from the breeze off the bay. He straightened up, wiping grease on a rag, those hazel eyes narrowing against the late afternoon sun. "Avery." "Hell, kiddo, you look like you just outran a nor'easter." His voice had that easy South Jersey gravel, warm as fresh-baked hoagies. I killed the engine, throat knotted tighter than a fisherman's line. "Yeah, well, plans change." He set the wrench down with a clink, crossing his arms over his chest, broad from years hauling crab pots and coaching Little League. "Mom give you the 3rd degree again?" I nodded, leaning against the car door, the metal still scorching my palms. "Something like that." He studied me for a beat, then jerked his chin toward the porch. "Come on inside. Water's cold, and I've got ribs marinating that won't wait." No grilling for details, no pity party, just that steady Leo vibe, like he knew when to reel you in quiet. That first evening blurred into a haze of charcoal smoke and the low hum of classic Springsteen crooning from a Bluetooth speaker on the railing. The cabin sat perched on a dune overlooking the Barnegat Inlet, all knotty pine walls and scuffed oak floors that creaked underfoot like old friends swapping stories. Leo flipped the ribs with tongs, slathering on his secret sauce, tangy with apple cider vinegar and a kick of smoked paprika, while I shucked corn right there on the Adirondack chairs, the bay glittering like fool's gold under the fading pink sky. He cracked open a couple of yard's ales from the cooler, handing me one with a foam-kissed lip. "To plot twists," he toasted, clinking bottles. I managed a laugh, the first real one in days. "And to not drowning in 'em." We ate cross-legged on the deck, the salt air thick with brine and laughter as he regaled me with tales of Dad's infamous '98 tailgate at the Meadowlands, how they'd smuggled in a portable grill and nearly torched the end zone celebrating a Giants upset. It was the kind of night that wrapped around you soft, the kind where grief feels less like a gut punch and more like a shared scar. Leo's divorce hung unspoken in the air, a fresh wound he'd patched over with these solo sunsets and midnight woodworking projects, but he didn't unload. Not yet. Just let the waves crash their rhythm below, pulling us into a tentative peace. Sleep was a no-show, same as always when my head's spinning like a tilt-a-whirl. The guest room, once a storage nook for his ex's forgotten watercolor sets, smelled of sea glass and lemon polish, with a quilt stitched by his mom hanging over the window like a sentinel. I tossed under the faded blue sheets, replaying Mom's parting shot. "You're throwing your life away, Avery, just like your father did." By 2 a.m., the walls felt too close, so I padded out in socks and my oversized Rutgers hoodie, aiming for the kitchen's glow. But the den light was on, a pool of amber spilling across the braided rug. There was Leo, sunk into the leather recliner Dad had gifted him years back, nursing a mug of black coffee and thumbing through a dog-eared copy of The Old Man and the Sea. His flannel was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the faint shadow of a tattoo, a compass rose inked during a post-divorce bender in Atlantic City. "Rough night," he murmured without looking up, voice low as the tide. I hovered in the doorway, arms crossed. "You could say that." He gestured to the armchair opposite, its cushions sagging invitingly. "Park it. I've got chamomile if you want the nuclear option for shut-eye." I dropped into the seat, the spring sighing, and he slid a steaming mug across the driftwood coffee table. Our knuckles grazed, just a whisper of warmth, and something in my chest unclenched. We didn't talk much at first, just the tick of the mantel clock and the distant buoy bell clanging like a mournful jazz note. Leo set his book aside, elbows on knees, staring into his coffee like it held the winning lotto numbers. "After your dad, that stretch after the crash," he said finally, words measured. "I'd pace this place till the floorboards wore grooves, felt like the world's foundation cracked right under me." His eyes met mine, steady as the lighthouse beam sweeping the horizon. I swallowed hard. "I get that. Like everything's adrift." He nodded, slow. "Some hurts, you don't dig 'em up. You just anchor where you can. Let the current do its thing." It wasn't advice, not really, just truth, shared in the hush. I sipped the tea, chamomile blooming bittersweet on my tongue, and for the first time in forever, the knot in my gut loosened. We sat like that till the sky blushed gray with pre-dawn, the ocean's murmur our only underscore. When I finally stumbled back to bed, his words echoed, "Anchor where you can." Maybe, just maybe, that was here. Morning cracked open with a riot of gold slicing through the salt-stiff curtains, pulling me from a dreamless drift. The cabin smelled of yeast and cinnamon. Leo must have fired up the oven at some ungodly hour. I shuffled into the kitchen, barefoot on the cool tile, to find him elbow-deep in mail at the butcher block island, sorting envelopes with the precision of a guy who'd once rebuilt engines for a living. He was in a forest green Henley that hugged his shoulders just right, cargo shorts slung low, feet bare and dusted with flour. "Morning, sunshine," he drawled, not glancing up but sliding my favorite mug, chipped blue with a faded anchor etched in, toward me, steaming with Irish breakfast tea. "Figured you'd need the strong stuff after that vigil." I wrapped my hands around it, the heat seeping in like a promise. "You bake before the rooster crows? That's some next-level uncle energy." He chuckled, low and rumbling, stacking a pile of junk mail. "Divorce perk. No one to bitch about the mess. Pull up a stool. Cinnamon twists are cooling." Our fingers brushed again as I reached for the plate, a spark jumping like static from a wool blanket. Casual, sure, but it lingered. We scarfed breakfast on the sun porch, gulls wheeling lazy circles over the inlet, the air humming with cicadas. "Farmer's market run?" he suggested, wiping crumbs from his lip. "They've got those Jersey Reds that make a mean salsa." I grinned, the plan sounding like salvation from my own head. The market sprawled under white tents in the town square, vendors hawking heirloom tomatoes fat as softballs and bundles of basil that perfumed the breeze. Leo bartered with old Mr. Kowalski for a peck of herbs, his laugh booming as he tossed in a joke about the Eagles' off-season woes. His elbow nudged mine while we weighed out the produce, a casual bump that sent warmth radiating up my arm. Simple stuff, nothing fireworks, but every graze felt charged, like the air before a summer storm rolling in off the bay. Back at the cabin, we unpacked in the kitchen, hips brushing at the counter, and I caught him watching me, that half-smile tugging his mouth. "You're good at this," I said, chopping cilantro with more force than needed. "Making normal feel easy." He leaned against the fridge, arms crossed. "Normal's underrated, especially after the shitstorms." Yeah, I thought, stealing another glance at his profile, sharp against the window light. Underestimated, too. That night, sleep ghosted me again, the wind rattling the shutters like impatient fingers. The cabin's bones settled with soft pops, and I found myself wandering the hall, drawn to the cluster of framed photos by Leo's bedroom door. Snapshots of bonfires on the beach, my gap-toothed kid self-building sandcastles with Dad, Leo grinning in the background with a surfboard tucked under his arm. A sliver of light leaked from under his door, warm and beckoning. I turned away, heart thumping, but the pull was magnetic. Come morning, he served up steel-cut oats studded with wild blueberries from the market, thanking me offhand for tightening a loose hinge on the pantry cabinet the day before. His gaze held a beat too long, weighted like sea glass smoothed by years of tides. "You're a natural fixer-upper," he said, spoon midway to his mouth. I felt my cheeks heat. "Learned from the best." The basement called next. Dusty crates of holiday ornaments and forgotten tools waiting to be sorted, Springsteen shuffling low from his ancient boombox. I held the step stool steady as he stretched for a high shelf, our palms meeting on the metal rung. The air thickened, humming with unsaid currents, his breath close enough to stir my hair. We froze there, the moment stretching like taffy, before he cleared his throat and eased down with the box. "Teamwork," he muttered, but his eyes said more. Later, out on the deck with sweating glasses of Arnold Palmer, his twist on it with a splash of bourbon, we settled into the wicker love seat, legs not quite touching but close enough to feel the heat. The sun dipped low, painting the water in strokes of burnt orange. "You ever notice how some quiets roar louder than a packed stadium?" Leo said, swirling the ice in his glass. I nodded, throat dry. "Yeah." They cut through the noise. His knee brushed mine, intentional this time, and he didn't pull away. Our eyes locked, searching depths we'd only skimmed before. Dinner was grilled flounder with lemon wedges and wild rice, eaten at the scarred pine table inside as thunder grumbled distant threats. He turned in early, claiming a headache from the humidity, but I lingered in the den, doom-scrolling job listings on my phone, ears tuned to the cabin's breath. Padding past his room on the way to mine, I caught the creak of floorboards. "Avery?" His voice floated out, soft as fog. I paused, door cracked open to reveal him in the threshold, hoodie zipped loose over a white tee, hair rumpled. "Knew it was you. Insomnia Club's got a 2-drink minimum." That grin, crooked and knowing. "Come on in. Misery loves company." I hesitated, pulse skittering, then crossed the threshold. His space was a time capsule, shelves crammed with dog-eared Tom Clancy thrillers and a brass compass from his Navy Reserve days, the air laced with cedar from the hope chest at the foot of the bed. He sank onto the edge of the mattress, patting the quilt beside him. Just to talk. Or not. I perched there, our forearms inches apart, the mattress dipping us closer. He raked a hand through his hair. "These walls have heard a lot of my bullshit post-split. Quiet's where the real stuff hides." I exhaled, the words tumbling out. "It's not just Mom keeping me up. It's everything feeling unmoored. And your whole anchor thing, it's sticking." His brow arched, surprise flickering. "Me? Hell, Avery, I'm just the guy with the leaky roof and bad divorce ink." I shook my head, turning to face him fully. "Nah, you're solid. And this?" I gestured vaguely between us. "It's creeping in, isn't it?" He leaned in, slow, the space crackling. "Yeah, slipped up quiet like fog off the bay. But it's no fog, it's the real deal." My breath hitched. "So what's the play?" He cupped my hand in his, thumb tracing lazy circles. "Your call. We hover in the shallows or we dive. If you're game, girl, let's turn that key." Heart slamming like waves on jetty rocks, I squeezed back. The bedside lamp clicked off with a soft snick, shadows folding around us. "No torpedoes," he whispered, drawing me nearer. "I want this solid, like oak." "Me too," I breathed, the world narrowing to his steady hold. Worth the build. Dawn crept in, soft as a whisper, painting Leo's room in shades of amber and rose. I woke to the faint rhythm of his breathing, his arms slung loose across the sheets, the quilt bunched around his waist. The cedar scent clung to the air, mingling with the briny tang drifting through the cracked window. My jacket hung over his desk chair, a casual claim staked in his space, and his battered Timex sat ticking on the nightstand beside my phone. I lay still, heart steady for once, anchored in a way I hadn't felt since Dad's old fishing trips, those long-ago mornings when the world was just us, the skiff, and the glassy bay. Leo stirred, mumbling something about coffee, and I slipped out to the kitchen, bare feet cold on the oak planks. The ancient drip machine gurgled as I measured grounds, the routine feeling like a promise carved in the morning's quiet. He shuffled in minutes later, hoodie sleeves rolled to his elbows, that sleepy half-smile catching the light. "You're up early, Hayes," he teased, voice gravelly with sleep. "Thought I'd beat you to the brew." I slid a mug his way, black, no sugar, the way he liked it. "Figured I owed you for the hospitality." He leaned against the counter, close enough that our elbows brushed, and we sipped in sync, the bay sparkling like a postcard beyond the screen door. "This," he said, nodding toward the water. "This piece? Didn't see it coming." I met his eyes, warm as driftwood. "It's scary good, isn't it?" He chuckled, low and easy. "Yeah, like a wave you didn't brace for." We moved through breakfast like a dance we'd been practicing for years, me flipping bacon, him slicing peaches from the market, the radio humming some old Tom Petty tune. Wildflowers filled the cabin, and Leo hummed along, off-key but unembarrassed, tossing a pit into the sink with a grin. "You staying for a bit, then?" he asked, casual but weighted, like he was testing the tide. I paused, spatula hovering over the skillet. "If you'll have me." His gaze softened, and he reached across the island, his calloused fingers grazing mine. "Doors open, Avery. Always has been." The words landed soft but heavy, like a stone smoothed by years in the surf. He stepped out to check the boat shed, leaving me with the dishes and a heart thumping too loud for the quiet. I scrubbed plates, staring out at the dunes, wondering how something so unexpected could feel so right. Weeks slid by like pages in a well-loved book. I landed a gig at Bayside Books, a cozy shop in town with creaky shelves and a cat named Melville who napped in the window. I'd ring up paperbacks and local memoirs, chatting with sunburned tourists about the best crabbing spots, while Leo worked the marina, tuning outboard motors and swapping stories with grizzled fishermen. Evenings we'd fall into a rhythm, grilling bluefish on the deck, splitting a six-pack, or sprawled on the couch with a Phillies game flickering on his ancient tube TV. Our silences were loud, full of glances that lingered, hands brushing as we passed the salt or reached for the same chip bowl. One night, under a sky bruised purple with storm clouds, we sat on the deck steps, fireflies blinking like tiny lighthouses. "You ever think about what's next?" I asked, my knee nudging his. He tilted his head, the glow of his cigarette tracing arcs in the dark. "Used to plan everything. Marriage, house, the works. Fell apart anyway." "Now?" He looked at me, eyes steady. "I'm thinking moment by moment. This one's pretty damn good." I leaned into his shoulder, the warmth of him grounding me. "Yeah, it is. But the past doesn't stay buried, not when it's got claws." Mom showed up unannounced one Saturday, her silver Camry pulling into the drive just as I was hauling a load of laundry to the cabin's rusty washer. She stepped out, her linen blazer crisp despite the humidity, her auburn bob streaked with new gray. Her eyes, same hazel as mine, zeroed in on my sneakers parked by Leo's work boots, my coffee mug on his counter. "Avery," she said, voice tight as a taut line, "we need to talk." Leo, sensing the storm, offered a nod and retreated to the shed with a muttered, "I'll check the traps." Inside, Mom paced the kitchen, her heels clicking like a metronome. "You're living here? With him?" The word carried a barb, like I'd betrayed some sacred code. I set the laundry basket down, hands shaky. It's not what you think, Mom. He's been there for me, always has. Her laugh was sharp, cutting. He's family, Avery. Your father's best friend. He's not... She stopped, swallowing hard. Not whatever this is. I tried to explain. The late-night talks, the way Leo's steadiness patched the holes Mom's grief had torn, but her face crumpled. Your dad trusted him, she snapped, voice breaking like glass. And now this? She stormed out, slamming the screen door, leaving me with the echo of her words and the sting of her hurt. Leo found me later, sitting on the jetty rocks, tossing pebbles into the tide. He didn't ask what happened, just sat beside me, his flannel sleeve brushing my arm. She's raw, he said finally, voice low. Lost your dad. Now feels like she's losing you. I nodded, throat tight. I didn't mean to hurt her. He squeezed my hand, his grip warm and sure. She'll come around. Takes time to see past the pain. I leaned into him, the waves crashing steady below, and for a moment, the world felt less jagged. We stayed there till the stars pricked the sky, his arm around my shoulders, the salt air weaving us closer. Back at the cabin, I sent Mom a text, a photo of the bay at dusk, captioned, "Still your girl, just finding my way." No reply, but I didn't expect one. Not yet. The days settled into a rhythm as steady as the tides rolling into Barnegat Bay. Leo and I carved out a life in the spaces between work and waves, our mornings filled with coffee and banter, our evenings with the crackle of driftwood fires on the beach. I'd shelve novels at Bayside Books, slipping dog-eared Vonnegut paperbacks to curious teens, while Leo wrestled with carburetors at the marina, his hands perpetually smudged with grease. We'd meet back at the cabin, trading stories over plates of crab cakes or take-out pizza from Sal's down the road, the kind with crust so thick it soaked up the sauce like a sponge. Our touches grew bolder, his hand lingering on my waist as we washed dishes, my fingers tracing the compass tattoo on his collarbone when we sprawled on the couch, half watching a grainy rerun of Jaws. The cabin became our haven, its creaky floors and salt-fogged windows holding our quiet moments like a tide pool cradling starfish. But Mom's silence hung heavy, her unanswered texts piling up like driftwood on the shore. I'd send her snaps,